So this is the first design, well, not the first design. The black one is the first design of a concept of some way to hold SMD tape partial reels or cut from a reel, say like 1,000 resistors or whatever, on paper tape. And so I printed that off just to get the size and to see if it would hold itself against the outside. This black one right here. And it worked pretty good. It just wouldn't stay in there. And then, so I thought, if I'm just going to make a bunch of slip covers, I might as well make a little case that holds it that will let you dispense it kind of in smaller strips, and you can cut them and put them in some kind of little holder. So I went a little further with the design, put a little inner diameter cylinder, and I added a bevel, an overhang bevel to the top to keep it from falling out. Here I'm just twisting it. If you just twist it, it winds itself tight against the outside ring, and it stays in there pretty good. The paper holds itself in pretty good. I later found out that the smaller it gets, it won't, and plastic won't. But so there's some more designs, a couple more iterations coming out. This one's just got a little hole that you can either use for dispensing or actually pulling the tape out of. And I was just really just trying to work on the angle and the softness of that to get it to let you pull on tape without snagging it, and so that it'll come out at a decent. I'm just trying to get it to come out. Well, the only problem is getting it to come out. It's easier to use tweezers. I don't know why I tried using this thing. But yeah, just grab it, tweezers, and pull it out, and then you have a little dispenser. Of course, you gotta be careful when you tighten it up. It's gonna probably go back in. There it goes. So this one was a little tight. Looks like I'll need to make the because it is an overhang, that hole. I will need to make it a little bit bigger. So the first model was a success. I liked it. It works. You can't really shove it back in. It kind of doesn't really work. So this is me just playing with it, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what size it needs to be, and see what we need to change for the next version. Put a ring on the inside. So this is revision 2. I made the hole a little bit taller. I added these 2 other holes so I could try to do some alternate stuff with this. Maybe pull the tape out and use it as a kind of like a feeder. It didn't really work that great. I don't know if the hole, I probably need to move it over one so there's not so much friction against the curve. That's why I put 2 of them to experiment with their position. I'm just checking out the print quality. I must have printed this at a cheaper quality, a lower quality to get them out faster, because this first one came out perfect. Better quality. This one's a little messed up, which might be why this test failed. So I'm trying to It's real hard to pull, but I should have probably taken it out. Yeah, so I was trying to feed it out that second hole. I should have just fed it out the next hole. And I also wanted to figure out what sizes they needed to be for different size components. Right now I'm just using a test piece of tape, not that whole strip, because I don't have any to waste. It's kind of hard to test this without ruining destructive testing some tape without ruining a whole bunch of it. So I don't think this is really going to work with the tape, but maybe someone else can refine it. Somebody that dumps their components out, they can test this several times and get a good some good information about it. It's probably going to be easier to just yeah, so this has to be smaller. As you can see, that was just like a little test piece. But the paper tape, it's kind of real smooth. It just rotates by itself in there. It's just a real smooth interface. Not so much with plastic tape, so that'll be a feature test. Yeah, that might not work. It loosens up as it. Needs more testing. This is another test I made. I just made some changes and tried to print it a little quicker. I think I changed the Z-seam location to try to clean it up a bit. I was getting some stringing and some seams in places I didn't want them. And this just threw seams all over the place and left little blobs everywhere. So this didn't work at all. This was pretty much foul. So these take about an hour and 20 minutes to print, so I was trying to get it down a little bit. You have to have fairly decent quality, but you could probably get it printed pretty fast if you had a really good calibrated printer. I think I need to tweak some retraction and stuff so I can go a little faster. I was just getting way too much stringing and it was messing up the surface and causing problems. Anything sticks out of the surface and things don't work properly. So that's part of the process, figuring out how to print these kind of shapes. And then I want to test it with like a partial plastic reel. These are plastic carriers, 8mm. And obviously it's not enough to fill the reel up, so I thought maybe I could cut a little piece of plastic stripping, use it as a compression spring, and it worked. It worked fairly well. I just I had a piece of plastic sitting around, I just cut a strip out of it. And I thought, well, I can create just a bunch of strips out of this. And, it should be easy to find, a fairly decent little piece of bendy plastic. You can make it out of just like blister packs of stuff you buy or whatever, a pack of salad or something. And it worked. It held it against the edges, and I can reel it out. So so that was promising. See, it was really smooth. Not a problem at all. It's just that the plastic is so slippery. You have to have that compression to hold it, or else it just falls apart. I had to tape two things together because I didn't even have one long enough. I got to buy some plastic carriers to test with. So it worked. The plastic worked, and the little compression worked. I think at this point I thought I was going to be done. I'd be like, okay, got it one size, fits small reels, fits large reels, and these compressions should even work for the paper, so that when they get down to only a much smaller strip, it's still going to be compressed and it'll still spool out. So at this point, I was going to print a bunch of these so I could just put my stuff away. I have about 8,000 components in 1,000 reels that are just all different values and cut like this, apart off of a larger reel. So I'm going to test a small strip of paper and see what it does. It should work just the same as the plastic small reels. Maybe I can even, handle this down to a couple hundred values. When you're dealing with paper tape, you really can't kink it beyond a certain diameter, or it starts to crease. And when it creases, the plastic comes off, and then you start getting parts come falling out, and then it just actually bends the paper and gets all kinky like this. So I'm just trying to right now I'm just trying to unbend it so that it goes to the outside. But if you took it off a reel, it would want to naturally kind of snap to the outer edge because of the diameter of the reel it came off of. I guess I should have looked at what diameter reels come in, but it doesn't really matter. I was more interested in keeping it flowing smoothly when you try to extract it, and keeping from creasing. Here I'm just testing paper with a piece of plastic compression. So I pretty much figured out that it needs to be the length of your compression strip, or whatever spring we'll call it, needs to be a certain size so that it doesn't stab into it like the way it is now, and it kind of drags on it and prevents it from spooling off. So I kind of decided I'm going to need different sizes for different amounts, or it just needs to be thin enough that it can overlap itself, and then it'll just uncurl, kind of like some kind of watch spring, uh, radial spring kind of a thing. You can kind of see that here, where it's working, but it's pushing on like an oval, and just wasn't really working out too great. But the concept worked when you get it lined up properly, and it just works. It comes out flawlessly, pretty much frictionless. It gives a little bit of tightness so it doesn't fall out on its own, and the concept is going to work. So I just need to find a way to create these little compression lines.
It's like captive. An anchor.
Exit. I decided I think I'm going to try to make a smaller size. It's easier to print and will fit smaller pieces, maybe 500 count strips and stuff like that, or some of the finer stuff. If it's a smaller reel, if it's 603, it's going to be a much smaller piece of tape. So I'm just trying to see, can I make this cord diameter the same and then reduce the size of the spool, just to make it a little bit easier to use. These big spools are at the maximum of my bed. They're hard to print. They are pretty much edge to edge on my bed. I have a very small printer. It's only 110 millimeter across. So I'm trying to see what kind of size a small spool of tape takes up, trying to get some calculations. And I think I wound up picking a width of maybe, I think it was 90 millimeters. The big ones are about 110 millimeters. Again, I didn't want to make that center spool any smaller. I may modify it still, even though I've had these all printed already, because I can't find there's no standard pipe size that these can fit on. So I might shrink them down a little bit or find some kind of way to space them. But I would like to be able to put them on some kind of rail or tube that they can all fit on. This is a test of 3D printed radial compression springs. I'll cut these. I don't know why there's so much stringing on this. This is 1 millimeter. Layer height is, where'd it go? Layer height is 0.13. Certain layer heights, I get all this stringing. I don't know what the deal is, but it's cool. I don't have to deal with the seam, I can just cut it out. Just make the edges a little smoother. See if it'll work for a larger reel. Probably not. Could be a little stronger. Yeah, see, it doesn't really hold strong enough to keep
I mean, I've pretty much just determined that I'm going to need a cover for these, because there's no way it's going to compression fit it in there. And if I put a lip on the inside to help, it's just really nothing. Friction alone is not going to keep it in there. So what I could try to do is, I wonder if I can temper this. And get more springiness out of it, or if I wonder if it's just gonna wear and get softer, get weaker. I don't know. It's just so many variables you could do. I think this is 3 perimeters. If I had to guess, I have to look again, but I think it was 3 perimeters. I think it was 1 millimeter. I want to start off real small. And see how that works. Let's try, where's the small one? Here's, no, that's not the small one. Where's the small one? Here's a small one. I had another one. Where'd it go?
These are the small 90 millimeter. You can see they're much smaller, and they're perfect for small strips.
Huh.
Maybe like 300.
All right, so I'm trying to make something like this printable. It's about the same. Of course, it's. If I had a bigger printer, I can make a bigger loop and then get more tension out of it, but that's the maximum size of my printer. It's 100 millimeters. Let's see if this will work. I don't need to, oh, shoot. Better off going around or you messed the whole tape up. Try and get it out. Should be coming soon. Ah, shoot, I'm right past it again. There we go. So now this should keep it tensioned, so while you pull it out, it doesn't tighten against the, whoops, that one's got, that's I don't have a long enough piece, so I taped that. Yeah, works perfect. Works really good. I think this will be a good enough solution for now. Just print these out. Of course, I have a whole bunch of these, but when you cut them, they don't wind up being straight. They're too slippery. They don't grab. You could even make something like this with little bumps that grab on the tape. You could also make a cover that goes in there like that. Seals it up. Or what if I put a ring on the outside? Maybe someone will get an idea from this. I've almost already have enough to use this, so that's kind of a neat kind of a design right there. Look at that. That's some neat mechanics right there. That's really loud. I can imagine you could have two pieces that have another hub that this connects to, and it would keep some kind of pinch mechanism. They're probably too close together. If they're further apart, they'd grab, and you can maybe pull something that retract. It's kind of interesting. But I was saying I can make a rim that sticks out on the outside. Like I have a slip cover that comes around that's printed, that's made to expand the other way, where it's printed smaller. I'm going to try that next. I'll print to a center. This is an outward spring. I'm going to print an inward spring. And that could. Either way, the problem is going to be when these are in here. When this is in here, it's going to be hard to well, this does help feeding it. I wonder if it'll go all the way. It might get too tight. Yeah. It's getting a little tight. Once you get it so far, you can just take that out. Keep feeding it. See, I've been rolling it and popping it in as a way to feed it, load them, but this works pretty good too. Have some kind of wheel. So when you get to a certain point, it gets a little tight. So then you kind of gotta. Maybe I can make a tool for that. See, and the problem is that's gonna fall right out. So I'll put this little guy in there. Let's see how tight it is. I have to figure out which direction it needs to go. Oh, what happened? Shoot. Oh, it's all messed up. Shoot. Ugh. See, this is the problem I'm having. With paper tape, it's not a big problem, but with plastic, it is, because it's so delicate. It's so smooth. That's the easiest way. Maybe I'll put a notch on the middle that you can feed it from the middle. It might be easier to wind from the middle. I forgot to do this. You gotta tension it to the outside before you put the ring in. Alright, so I need to figure out which way the ring needs to go so it doesn't do that. And it can always lock to itself, maybe, somehow. That's a lot better now. It's a lot more to take it out now. So, that's where I'm at here. I'll try to print some more of these and make them a little tighter. See if increasing the thickness to 1.5 millimeters makes it stronger, or just less permanent, less springy. So we'll see. I'll make one smaller. This is for 8mm. This is 12. For some reason this didn't print right and that piece just broke right off. Like had no support. It's supposed to be like that. I don't know what happened. It works. Probably need to make it a little bit taller and figure out what's going on here. Printed like crap. I gotta figure out how to make these stack too. That's the problem. They don't stack, they slide all over the place. I tried making a thicker spring. This one's 2mm. Probably needs to be cut because it gets too thick, but it's really strong. So I'll try cutting that. Just can't even hold it. Yeah, pretty strong. So. So I guess next I'll see if I can make a one for 18mm. Probably takes a really long time to print them. So I'm just working on having a good assortment of these. Different sizes, and each one I iterate, I work on making it a little bit better. The problem is if you stack them, they just fall all over the place. I don't know how you could. I like them being flat. I don't want things sticking out, but I also would like for them to be able to snap together somehow. Thought maybe I could put a little notch in the inside that have a pin, and I can use that for combining them or for putting a cap on them. So maybe I add like a little lug with some holes. I'll try that next. But then that interferes with having this hanging on a... Maybe I can make the whole wall thicker with some holes. The idea for this was... Oops, see, that's not strong enough to hold that in there. Just fell out. Kind of really need a lid for these plastic ones. They're just so loose. I'll put this in here real tight. I probably need to cut that a little bit. Try that now. I'll try that.
This one is, I think, 1.5mm thick. The other spring was just 1mm. So I'm testing the thickness to see what I can do with them. I think the next one I'm testing is 1.2mm thick.
I'm going to cut it right. Probably flush. That's really strong. that should keep them in there a little better. Still stays pretty tight. I need it to overlap a little better though. That's the other problem with them not overlapping, is that it's hard to tighten them up. Seems to work pretty good though. This might be good for I'll try this with paper and see if it works any better. I mean, that's the difference. I like these better because the thinner it is, that you can overlap it and it adjusts better. If it's too thick, you get much better spring tension, but you can't really overlap it. Maybe I can make it a little different so that it's thicker and then it's thinner. That might be interesting. Make one section of it thinner. I don't know. Still working on a concept.
Yeah, if anybody knows how to do that in Fusion, let me know.
Oh, it's all messed up. So we'll see how it progresses from here. So I tested printing 12 millimeter. These are regulators. And so that reels for that size tape, 12 millimeter tape. These are 8 millimeter. So then I want to print 1/4. I think these are what, 15 millimeter? Yeah, 16 millimeter. Things like USB connectors. So I printed a couple larger 12 millimeters, just varying quality, just to see what the best print was. This is also a new filament I just got, so if I'm going to test it out, might as well use it on something I could use, you know. So this has got overhangs, very thin walls, very thin bottom layer. Any imperfections in the axes you can see, and then it's got a really strong inner wall. So I test pretty good test print. It takes about an hour. It's on the higher end, but it reveals a lot of problems, such as this. One of these this one just broke right out. Let's see how bad that print is. Some layer heights print perfectly, some don't. I have to figure out how to calculate layer height. I mean, that should print at the decent quality at all layer heights. So I think I have some kind of speed and retraction problem at certain layer heights. Most likely it's not the layer height change that's changing, it's something else I'm changing. I'm going to try with a bitter slicer too. So then I got bigger, 110 millimeter. And these are, I think, the 90 millimeter. So these will hold about, a much larger, probably about twice as much as these. Depending on what, maybe 3 times. When I was testing some thicker springs, I should have made this, I don't know why I cut all that out. I should have made it bigger so I could test it in the bigger ones, what you'd use it for. You wouldn't use it for these. I don't know why I cut it. This wasn't very smart. I'm just testing different thicknesses of springs. There's a one, I think this is 1.5 millimeter. That's 2. Somewhere in between might be the perfect amount. Some of them fail. So this here is the bigger one. This is the 18. Sorry, this is the 16 millimeter. And each revision, I'm just making changes to these openings to figure out what kind of curves I need on the inside, and to see if what the spacing of these need to be. And if see it, obviously I could have put a cutout in here. That would work much better for these kinds of tapes. It also might help for me to break this piece out and use this bigger section and see if that works better. Sorry, that's going to be a problem. So I can test this and see if there's a better way to do that. Most of these packages in this size are going to have large pockets, so a basic cutout would be pretty good. Well, that's that. Did I print 2 of these? No, just the one. I also was modifying the bottom thickness. This has got some print problems. I don't know why. This should have came out pretty good, but it didn't. So I gotta figure that out. My bottom's coming out real thin. This first couple I printed came out really good. Might be the print, might be the filament. I mean, it's a little messed up. This is right at the maximum size of my printer. So it's hard to get that first layer to stick. My bed's not perfectly level. It's warped. So that's what I got so far. That's the progression of the prototyping. But it's working pretty good. I could probably just go ahead and make couple more changes and it be usable. The only thing I worry about is them coming out. So this one's got a nice strong spring. That obviously I need to print taller springs. And these bigger ones are probably going to need to be stronger. Of course, I can't use this because I cut too much. It's kind of stupid. Let me see if it's strong. I can at least test it, I think. It's hard to feed these things. They kind of lock against each other. Oh yeah, see, that's much better. Look at that. Not going anywhere. So if that was a full wrap, it'd be much better. And bigger. It needs to come to full height. I might be able to get away with not having a lid. Spring system might work. I just gotta keep experimenting with it and testing the roundness of them, and then make something to put them on, some way to store them, or some kind of rack to stack them on. I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I didn't think that far, but they all have the same center column size, so maybe I could put a really cheap spindle, something that I could print with very little material. It'll go up in there. And then I can also print some spacers. I wonder if they need like a nub on them to rotate them. Nothing to really grab when they're like that. I might need a registration notch to lock them onto a rod in the same orientation. So, there's the first one. Still works pretty good, just doesn't hold it in. It's more like a holder than a feeding system. Jeez, this is all messed up now. I need to print some more of this size just to use. That's a nice size too. It's probably the size of the real reel. So I really like these small ones. But I think a problem I'm gonna have is not that. Obviously that, but this spring has lost its tension by being in there. It's just kind of reformed to this new shape. This is what it used to be. And now it's just not really springy anymore. So it's not really doing its job. So that might be a problem. I was afraid that was going to happen too. But the PLA just conforms to its new. Maybe I need to use a stronger plastic, like a ABS. Something that has a higher melting point, doesn't want to naturally change. You know, I need like a rake to do this. Very impossible to pick them up. But, so that's the problem I foresee with this. So that's going to be a problem. Let's see if it's a problem with this one as well. Yep. I mean, it's still got a little bit of spring. Looks like it loses about half of it. This one's a little thicker. Let's try this. Try this big one I printed for this. How could I cut that? Let's see, I'm gonna cut it on the seam. Ooh, it's brittle. Brittle filament. Damn. Take a little bit off the edges. Damn, that's crazy. Damn. I have to anneal this. Might just be that the tension on that seam was really high. I don't think this is going to be a good material. I mostly was printing the clear so I can do some layer testing. It's really easy to see problems with the layers and vibrations and stuff like that. So if I'm going to test this out, I might as well print something I can use. So that would be a little high. It would be a little thicker than it needs to be. Well, we'll try that and see if that deforms too. This purple prints really well. This is Amazon Basics. I can't find the same color anymore. I need to get some more of these. This is a thicker one. Problem with this is I think I cut it too short. Yeah, see, this will probably retain its tension better. Put that in there and we'll see. Check that in a couple days. But yeah, look at that. That was that size. Clear filament's going to work out for a lot of stuff. It seems to be very brittle, but it's very cool. Really liking it. So this might not work. I went a little thicker on these. This is problem is that one didn't print right. Do I have another one? I think I have another one. Yeah. This one right here. Let's try this one out. I don't know the best place to cut this is. See how it sands. See if it sands different than normal PLA. Nah, not really. Do I have another small one I can test? I don't really have any more ribbons. I don't have any carriers to test. These might be too big for... Yeah, those are too big. Okay. Let's try, let's check these bigger ones. I'll stay. I still retained a little bit. So we'll swap that out for one of these and see if it's any better. Alright, well, we'll try that and see what that does. And we'll see if this, maybe they're going to have to be thicker. I don't know how else you can... I don't know how else I can print these other than using a different material that doesn't do this. I wonder if I put, maybe if I put a thicker strip in the middle. Maybe kept it thin, but put like a little reinforcement rib. Yeah, just make it thicker. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. A little tight, but it should work. Oh, that sound. Probably wrap that with something that's quiet, not so annoying.